Welcome to the Agape Purpose Podcast. Today, I'm joined by two incredible men of God. I think that I'm just very blessed for today. I got Mitch Todd, correct?
Two first names.
Two first names. Lead pastor at Centerpointe Christian Church, and one of his congregants, our very own Todd Bartley, our financial services director as well. Oh, you don't want to say anything?
No, great to be here.
Okay. I want to give you a little free, Bruce got his own little spot to say stuff. I didn't know if you had anything important to say as well.
I'm not as funny as Bruce, so
I beg to differ.
I'll take a spot.
You'll take a spot?
No, just kidding.
No, I'm just so grateful, Mitch, that you took the time to come out, and Todd as well. I think you guys both have a very unique perspective. Centerpointe's one of our very generous donors that continually gives, and we want to talk about that today. So let's start from the very beginning. Mitch, can you tell us what your first encounter was with Agape?
I've been in Florida for about almost 30 years now, and I'd known about Agape. I mean, it's well known all over the country among pastors and stuff. So I've known about Agape. I didn't really know all the details. I just knew they did good work. And I moved to Venice. It's coming up on 5 years ago now to lead Centerpointe Church. And one of our members at the church is next door neighbors with Alan's and Jennifer Spear.
Wow.
And so they said, hey, I'd love for you to meet my neighbor. He's a great pastor and he works at Agape. And I go, he works at Agape? I said, I'd love to know more about Agape. So she scheduled a dinner for us. And I went over to their house for dinner, and there was just the six of us, and we sat around and talked. And like within the first 15 minutes, I was like, wow, this guy is so rich with wisdom and his experiences. And I heard his stories. He started telling stories about how he got into pray with Fidel Castro. And I was like, can I play in your sandbox? I want to do something together. And in fact, he even asked me to go to Cuba with him like 2 days later. And my passport renewal was in the mail, and I wasn't able to go. And I was so bummed out. But I just fell in love with Alan, and we just hit it off. And I absolutely love that guy. He's become like a mentor to me. He's gone through so many things. He's a few years older than me, not that much older, I don't think, but he's a lot older when it comes to his experience and wisdom. So that was my first, kind of contact, I guess, with Agape. And then we started getting involved. I thought, well, we've got Agape right here in our backyard. We need to see what's going on with that. And so that was what led me to start getting involved with Agape.
And so let's bring that Todd into this. So Todd, what was your interaction when you heard that, hey, they want to start interacting with Agape? Were you part of Agape at this point or no?
Yeah, I think I don't know if you did before. Or
no, you were still working in the
corporate world
at that time, because Todd and I actually, this is a kind of a cool story. Todd and I were having some very deep conversations about doing something in life that really makes a difference for the kingdom. And if I can say this, he was pretty frustrated in his corporate job, not because of the pay or not because of just because feeling like I want to do something that
want to make a difference.
Yeah. At the end of my life, I want to say, what did I do? Yeah. And so we went to Israel together, and that was like a really spiritual moment for that trip. And we spent a lot of time praying about what the next step is for his life, what the next season is for his life. And Todd he's one of our elders at the church, but more than that, he's become one of my best friends. And so we really just started praying about this and talking about this. And then I didn't even know, you didn't even tell me that you saw this opening responsibility at Agape.
I didn't.
All I know is I got a call from Alan, and Alan said, hey, I got a guy from your church that applied for a job. I go, who's that? He goes, Todd Bartley. I go, Todd? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, would you hire him? I go, I would hire him in a heartbeat. I said, I would love to work with Todd. I said, he is an amazing guy. And he says, well, we're really looking at Todd. And I said, you just can't go wrong. This guy is amazing. And so I just am so amazed at people like Todd. And you hear these stories of people who have give up their corporate career that comes with a lot of extra, resource benefits. And he came and put his life on the line for ministry and his family, and they were all supportive of it. It's just such a great story. And it was great for our church because our church saw that, and it has really helped our church. And then once Todd got involved with Agape, I thought, we got Alan here, and Todd's working with we've got to get on board with Agape and see what's going on. That's kind of how it unfolded, to the best of my memory.
Yeah, it was, and it was a big career move. It was a life-changing trip when we went to Israel together. I think we've talked about it before, and I think people have said that it brings I think you even said, what did you say? Like, it brings the Bible into 3D.
Yeah,
I think that's your.
It's like all these
that's
things
what you said about it, like where you read about it. Like, we're standing on the mountain where Jesus, fed the 5,000, or we're walking up the path to Caiaphas's house where he was held the night, where he was arrested, and they know that he walked right up these steps. Those steps have they're called, like AAA moments, where these steps were there 2,000 years ago. These steps are the steps Jesus walked on, and it kind of, you come back and it changed. And I had felt this way for quite a while in the corporate world, like, hey, I got a good job, providing for my family, but I just don't feel good. Like, I just have anxiety, just don't have a purpose. And for the longest time, I was hoping that maybe I'd work my way into Centerpointe at some point.
You still may.
You're not stealing.
Alan will probably have something to say about that. Yeah,
I think everyone here will have something to say about that.
But the timing when Mitch came on, and we're going through a lot of growth, but there's just not a need. There's not a need right now for kind of a financial, a financial person other than the bookkeeper and a finance team. So I dedicate my time financially. But I came back from that, and it wasn't soon after that. One night my wife Megan said to me, I just wasn't happy, and I'd said something to her about not being happy, and she's like, well, why don't you look for something different? And I've always kind of said, well, what am I going to find? I've been doing banking for 25 years. I don't know how to do anything else. And then the next morning I got online, and then I was like, no, this is dumb. And I closed it down, and I got into my work computer. I started working, and then something frustrating happened. I got back up and went on my personal computer and opened it up, and there was the post for Agape.
So it was the first job that you applied for?
Yes. First job outside of the corporate world.
See, I think that's so cool, because that's exactly what happened for me as well. It's like God's like, no, if you're coming to Agape, we know exactly what's going to happen, and we're going to make it happen. And it's so cool to hear your story.
And that's why I didn't even talk to him about it, because it was really a God thing, a God moment, where it was like, hey, I want you to see this this post right here. And I posted and actually went on vacation the next day. And then Carol called me while I was on vacation, and the rest is history.
That's crazy. And I feel very selfish that I get to sit up here and hear these stories, because Todd is very vehemently always talking about, man, I'd love to do another Israel trip. And now I see why it was so important in his life. It's like, it was the life-changing. It was taking that next step in the calling of God. So I'm just, again, very selfish. I get to sit here and listen to these stories, listen to you again, Mitch. So let's continue on that timeline. So Mitch gets hired. You guys are now starting to, work with Agape more. Tell a little bit more about that experience.
Well, I mean, our first really, I think, financial piece was when you did the pie in the sky. And I mean, that just drew me to Agape, because I love pizza and I love pie. So, I mean, what better way to get involved in mission work if you can have a pizza and a pie that go along with it? And so we, as a church, we got involved in that. And there was just so many stories that came out of that, from people that came and served and got involved. I showed up. I didn't even really know all the people that were going to be involved in it. And I saw our church, folks from our church just going around, and they were serving. We had we were just talking about this. I'd forgotten about this one, but we have a group that meets on Friday. It's called the Bible Art Group, and it is so fantastic. They get together and they just did their arts and crafts with these cards and letters, and they wrote cards for all of the missionaries. I mean, how many missionaries do you have now that you serve? I was going to say I think when we started it was about 250 or something. It's like 300 now. And they did like 300 cards, sent those all out to the missionaries. So that's not a financial thing. It was just a great way of supporting the local churches that you guys are supporting and supporting the local missionaries.
Yeah, and I think you hit a point is like donorship is not just about financial. It's about, putting in the effort. Our volunteers are donors to us. Like you said, they're creating those artwork that means the world. Like that is treasure for them over there. That shows like there's people over here in the States who care about us enough that like they want to show the value of what we do, and you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
So I alluded to some questions with Todd beforehand, and I think it's very important to talk about like financial stewardship inside of a church. What really pushes donorship outside of your church? What is the driving force? Like, hey, we're going to support this ministry. What's the why behind that?
So, and we're still figuring this out for us as a church, because let me see how I can say this without offending too many people. But sometimes in the church world, when it comes to missions, you'll have a missions team of people, and they have a great passion for the Lord and a great passion for serving globally and even locally too. But there's a lack of intentionality, and so they'll have a guy that they're connected to in the church that maybe has a relative that is doing the mission work in Japan, and somebody that's doing something in China, somebody's doing something in Africa, and somebody's doing something in South America or something. And so they want to support everybody to please everybody. And so they give $25 here and $50 there, $150 there. And so it just doesn't have a lot of intentionality, and it doesn't have a lot of accountability to it either. And you don't really feel like you have a hands-on approach. So I always want us to not just have a transaction, a financial transaction, but I want to be involved in something that our people, mission-wise, globally and locally, where people can tangibly serve both financially and serve physically, And so for us at Centerpointe, we're transitioning from that kind of old model of missions to where we really want to be involved in two things. Church, they're both related to the church. Church planting, that's a primary, primary mission for us, to be involved in church planting. What institution has survived longer than any other institution on planet Earth? And it was God's plan A, and there is not a plan B, and that's the local church. And so we believe in planting local churches globally and locally, but also revitalization of churches. We want to revitalize and support churches. And I know that you work with a lot of other ministries that are not just church planting, but that really excites us to be able to help revitalize churches and to church plant. And so we kind of look at the lens of everything that we do through that lens. We still support local missions and some different things that we have here in Venice. But when we came to Agape, we looked at that and we go, well, that doesn't really necessarily fit our paradigm of what we're looking for, but we really wanted to be involved in it. But what we found is that because you have 300 missionaries, and many of them are church planters or revitalizing the local church where they're at, it puts us in close proximity to have incredible conversations of possible ministries of reciprocity with some of your missionaries. And Alan's been very supportive of that. We've met some folks.
Yeah.
And where did we meet? In Dominican Republic. Yeah, Dominican Republic. I've done a lot of work there over the years. But getting in contact with some of your folks while we're still supporting Agape flights, we want to build partnerships. And so Agape has been a way for us to continue and to build partnerships outside of Agape.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that Agape's purpose fits in with us in that, we're supporting those missionaries who are building. It might not necessarily be a church that they're building, but they're building a mission in a town in Haiti that's supporting those people, that's going to be there probably well after they're gone. Somebody else is going to take on that, and it will grow as a church, those church places.
Yeah, and what I kind of hope that happens, and I'm praying for, and we're building in some intentionality with this, is that through some of those relationships and even the ministries and missions that are supporting that don't have a local church, we're hoping that maybe we can go and actually plant a church for the people that are doing missions and ministry in Haiti. So
it's coming alongside.
Coming alongside them,
put up a church.
Like, for instance, we've got one of the missions that's not connected to Agape, but one of the missions that we have is we Open Arms. It's a missions for kids in Brazil. And we have one of our staff members that is the president and CEO of Open Arms Ministry, and so they have like 300 kids, 400 kids, and there's no church where they're at. And so we're in talks right now about planting a church where we already have kids and families that don't have a church to go to. But that's a direct result from a missions. And so we're hoping and we're praying that will culminate somehow through Agape with the relationships that you guys have built with the 300 different missionaries that you have.
Yeah, and it's my hope, too, that and really, I don't even know if I've shared this with Mitch, but it's my hope that over the years, especially as maybe Haiti settles down a little bit, is taking teams just to volunteer from the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going down to Dominican or going to the Bahamas like we did as a staff, or going to Haiti when it's settled down, and taking teams just so they get to see that. And I think, to bring this back to Agape, that's how Agape was started. When Keith and Clara went on a mission trip to Haiti, and with their church from Bradenton up Sarasota way, and they came back and said, we need to do something. And that's how the whole story started. I think you go back and watch Alan's first podcast, and he talks about how Keith and Clara started it out. So, that's what I want to do. We want to, and I told Mitch this a long time ago. I was in the corporate world. I was frustrated. I wasn't making an impact. I know I'm not going to be a preacher, so I'm not going to be able to bring people to God through the word. But what I wanted to do was use my abilities, which leadership, common sense, leadership, and financial background to help build the kingdom. And if that's working at Centerpointe and working here at Agape, that's great. But if I can help Agape financially, and I can help the missionaries pay their bills, get that going so that they don't have to worry about it, they can be out preaching the gospel. Getting Centerpointe on a point where we can build our expansion and we can start church planning. That's going to be my legacy that I want to leave for the purpose of God's kingdom here on earth.
And if I can say, I think Todd's story is Agape's story too, in the sense that, while you might not be up there preaching and leading people in that way, you're making it possible for so many people to do ministry in our church. You've made it possible for us to grow. I mean, part of the reason we've grown exponentially in the last 4 years, it's been crazy. But a lot of that has been the way that you have helped us manage the resources and finances to be able to do that. Well, taking that further, that's what Agape's doing, in that you guys are helping 300 different pastors and missionaries and church planters and church revitalization people. You're helping them be able to do their work. So going back to that old style of missions where you have all this money going out to all these different places, what I love about Agape is, and this is what I would say to even some other pastors or other church leaders or missions teams, is that when you're supporting Agape, you're supporting 300 different missionaries, and you have one accountability group that you're receiving accountability from. And Agape does a fantastic job with their accountability for that. And so I just think it's what you guys are doing is fantastic, because it's allowing the other leaders to be able to do what they need to do in order to expand the kingdom.
Yeah, I think, looking at it, financial stewardship is everything inside of a church. And so it's awesome to hear, obviously you're on the financial team at Centerpointe, but you're also part of a missions organization. So sometimes you have to look at it from two different lenses, and I love hearing your guys' different takes on it. I kind of want to lead into the next question is, if a church is looking to be a donor, what should they be looking for when they do decide to, push out funds to other mission organizations? What are some things that they can help set up themselves for success when they're showing the accountability for these funds?
I think first of all, I think you have to have a plan of intentionality. What are you trying to do? You can't save or rescue every single person. There's not enough resources that one church has to be able to make that kind of difference with all these different ministries. So I think there has to be some intentionality built into it. What's your church's mission? For us, it's church planting and church revitalization.
So it's finding your why first.
So it's yes. That's a better way to say it than I did. So finding your why, I think, is very important. And I think accountability is so important, and we talk about that so much in the stewardship. I just try to think, in everything that we do when we spend resource dollars, I think about the lady who's on a fixed income, who makes deep level sacrifices to the church, and I want to be the best steward of her giving and her that I can. And so that's why we want to honor that. And so accountability is a really important thing. And I know with the integrity of Agape, and that comes from leadership down, and Alan is one of the most integrity filled men that I know. He is just amazing. And so I feel so comfortable with Agape, and then knowing that the work that they're doing. That's probably the two primary reasons for us.
Yeah, and the beauty of working at Agape is like every door is an open door. So like at any time I have a financial question, I can go to Todd. But like when you work for, like we work for God, I think that's the best way to describe what we do. And for me, it's like we are accountable for every dollar we spend, and like we are going to have to answer for every dollar we spend that was donated for the kingdom of God. And I think that sometimes, like you said, the intentionality is just not there, because it's like, oh, I think I'm helping, but it's like, what is that money actually doing for the kingdom of God? Is it just, like taking care of creature comforts? So again, I like you said, I am so aware of what we do with what our money is, and I'm grateful for Todd, because Todd always is that little checkbox I have to go through to make sure I did it right.
Yeah,
I know. I have to go through
that bill
too.
And having me initial it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So the next thing I want to go into a little bit more stories about the Centerpointe and Agape partnership. What are some stories that you have that you would love to tell about that?
One is I talked about Agape putting us into contact with other people, and I'll let Todd tell the story because I think he's probably more passionate about it. And I think the story I'm talking about the boy.
About the boy, yeah. So, and this really came up through missionary services here, through our missionary service office, and it was probably 6-8 months ago. I'm not even sure now how long, but we got an email about a little boy from one of our missionaries who had been orphaned. Well, really, he had been left by his parents. I think his mother had died, and his father was practicing voodoo, and he left and just abandoned his son. And so one of the missionaries in the field had taken on this boy. He had turned his life over to Christ, but he was still hungry. And he saw some fruit up in a tree, and he climbed up to the top of the tree to get some fruit because he was hungry, and he fell out and broke his femur. And so there were pictures on this email of this boy with a broken femur, face all bruised up. I mean, it looked like he'd been run over by a truck. And you're in Haiti, and not anywhere near a large city. So it was just terrible. Like, it's heartbreaking just to look at the picture. And, it's this missionary said that they were looking to raise some funds to help him with his hospital bill so they could have a bed and change the bandages and have some help just as he recovers from this femur. Yeah, just the bare necessities. Yeah. And so, I took that back to Mitch and to the missions council at Centerpointe, and I said, hey, here's the story. And so then Centerpointe ended up cutting out of the missions money that we have, cutting a check down to that missionary to cover the boy's recovery so that he could have some time in the hospital, and then also so they could find somebody that he could stay with, a Christian Haitian in the area that he could stay with afterwards that would help with his recovery longer term. And so we were able to give some funds that way. So, that's just one small impact that I think Agape helped bring about, is connecting Centerpointe through Agape to a missionary down in the field, and helping them out and creating those circles.
Have we told that story to the church? Did we ever tell that story?
I don't think I ever told that story to anyone outside of the Missions Council.
should
I don't
tell that
think
story.
I don't think I ever told Alan or anybody here that Centerpointe did that. It was
Not to
just one of
toot
the-
our horn, but we should tell that story to our church. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
like they need to know that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was a powerful thing. You know, it was just it was a great opportunity that was set up by Agape.
Right.
How does that
By
make
and
you
through
feel?
Agape.
Because that's your home church that's coming alongside the organization you work. How does that make you feel?
Oh, I mean, I'm grateful that Centerpointe supports Agape, and I think it brings up a purpose. You know, it brings up a purpose for both me at Centerpointe and here. You know, it deepens the purpose because I want to show to Mitch and Centerpointe that Agape is doing the right things and driving kingdom growth, and then I want to show that Mitch, we're going to be responsible with this money, but then I also want to show Agape that Centerpointe is
I love it.
is a great resource to be connected to and make that connection. So one of the things that Mitch came in 5 years ago that he said was when our first meeting. I was in the elder leadership team when he came on board, and one of our first meetings we talked about how we're gonna attack or grow the church, and he talked about circles and put this on the whiteboard and put up circles on the whiteboard. It says this is the Venice area, and this circle is the surrounding area, and this circle is our people that could come to church. This circle is people that do come to the church, and then we want to get these people in smaller groups, into small groups, and then we want to get them down into the good friends group.
Discipleship.
Like
Peter,
this,
James,
just like
John,
Peter, James, and John, where these are the best friends, your stretcher bearers. That we talk about that a lot. So I don't know where I was going with that, but all these circles, you have to build bridges to bring people from one circle to another circle, and so that's what we do at the church, and I think it's intentional that we need to do that as nonprofits, is to build circles within our areas of influence.
Mitch, what do you do as the lead pastor to build people like this?
Like Todd.
Yes, like Todd. Sorry, like this. Sorry, you have a name. Your name's Todd.
like this guy. So I would love to take credit for all of Todd's growth. I will say that he has been one of the most exciting leaders to watch and see how God is transforming him and using him. I think one of the things that, my leadership style is I really try to empower, equip, and then unleash people for ministry. And so Todd really just took that and ran with it. And he has just done an amazing job in his leadership. And there's been a lot of our elders who have grown in that way as well, and a lot of our core leaders that we've had.
Yeah, and when you say unleash, which is one of the most beautiful phrasings I could ever hear, because then Todd comes here and he unleashes himself onto us. And I look to Todd as one of my mentors. I think, he's been there, he's done that. He has so much life experience in that, but he also
He's old. He's old.
Yeah.
Is that the way it sounded when I said it that way? No,
not really.
I think it's so unique because he won't say this, but he's so slow to anger, which is such a hard thing to do in today's world because everything's just boom, 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 fast, fast. Whereas Todd's like, well, let's look this through, let's not make rash decisions, which is so vital in the role he plays here. Because if we have someone who's rash in the financial department, that's a scary place to be as an organization. So I just always looked up to him in that aspect.
Thank you.
Yeah. See, look, I get to give you guys roses when you sit across the table over here. So you got to tell everyone besides Bruce that.
Yep. You'll get that extra money in the budget next year.
Yes. See, there was a little ulterior motives here. So, Mitch, looking forward to the future, we'll start wrapping up a little bit. How do you see Centerpointe's relationship with Agape evolving?
I think it's going to continue. I really think it's going to continue to grow. I want us to be one of the largest supporters of Agape. That's how much I believe in it. And so many of the people at Agape now are coming to our church. That's been kind of cool too.
Yeah.
That's been like, I
Yeah,
look
with
out there,
staff members
and we've
and-
got staff members. We got pilots that
Yep.
are coming to the church now, that serve and Todd. And so it just makes sense. I mean,
Volunteers.
for us, it really makes sense. I mean, it just makes sense. And I want to see us continue to just make a difference. And I know everybody can't do this, but I would love to go on a trip with Alan. Alan, if you're listening to this, I think he's probably listening to this. I still need to go to Cuba with you. But that's one way. And then I think I'm going to get my pilot's license. I only have one eye. Did I tell you that? I don't know if I can get that or not. But
I'm not going to ask you how it happened because I think I'm going to get a different story now.
Yeah, I get shot in the war. But see, I told you I was going to work that in.
I love it.
But no, I was born that way. But anyway. I think I'm gonna get my pilot's license and start flying for Agape.
We need pilots.
Yeah, we do.
Like every day, Todd,
Yes,
I look
we
at
do.
Todd like, when are we gonna get a new one? When are we gonna? Because you see Greg and man, he just needs help.
Yeah,
Like,
we pray constantly.
That'll never
We
happen
pray
for me,
constantly
probably.
for a
But
pilot.
I love planes, and so that was as a little boy. Even I
Yeah.
just love planes, and so it's just I love what you guys are doing.
wow.
Yeah. No, I think like from a Centerpointe perspective, how we can be, or like what the future has. I mean, we have volunteers here that come to Centerpointe. The Shellhammers started volunteering here. They're not a weekly volunteer, but they come periodically throughout the year. And we have one man that's I think he's on the Thursday crew that comes in that does cargo. He's a Centerpointe guy. What I want for Centerpointe and for Agape is, again, to go back to those circles and keeping people in circles. One of the things I see here is that when people volunteer their time, whether it's at Centerpointe or if it's at Agape, it's best to do it around a group of other people with Christ as the center, because then you can grow spiritually. I see it downstairs all the time with our cargo volunteers. They're stretcher bearers for each other. I mean, we have guys down there right now that have cancer, that are going through cancer, that have had heart surgery over the last, several months. We have one particular volunteer whose wife passed away not too long ago. And you see those guys that they volunteer with in their little circle, praying with them before they start the day, before they end the day. And you see them break bread together. I've seen people out on the town at dinner together, and they're volunteers here. And they're living their life together, and they're praying for each other, and they're supporting each other. And that's what I think I'd like to see Centerpointe, people from Centerpointe, or really anybody that's listening, to volunteer your time at a Christian nonprofit. It doesn't have to be Centerpointe, Agape. It could be anywhere. But get into something that's Christ-centered with somebody else and start living your life with them, and you'll grow spiritually. I think that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons why I've grown spiritually over the last probably 7-8 years, is getting into church, but not just going to church, but getting into groups with church, getting into leadership, serving, doing it out of not out of I have to serve, but I want to, and it will help you grow spiritually. I know you probably have more.
Yeah, I just
more
want
on
to
that.
chime in because you said something that made me think about this. One of the things that we talk about this all the time at the church. We're asking people to serve all the time, and when we ask people to serve, a lot of times people think, well, they're asking us out of desperation or something. No. We're asking people to serve because when you serve, that's part of your own spiritual formation. So you actually grow when you're serving. And so when we talk about serving, though, it's a little bit different than maybe we don't talk about just serving at our church, because how many greeters can you have? How many parking people can you have? I mean, we've got 1,000+ people. I mean, so when we talk about serving, we're meaning go serve at Agape, go serve out in the community, go serve the homeless, go serve, and if every one of us did that, man, think about the impact that we could have. And so Agape is a huge part of that, where we want our people to go and not just serve at Centerpointe, but go serve out in the community. So that's a big part.
Yeah, I want I'll probably mess up this quote, but one of the quotes that Mitch said is that when he's telling people that we want them to serve at the church, he tells them, we're not trying to use you to get ministry done. We're trying to use ministry to get you done.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, that is,
and I can't take credit for saying that, but I've said it a lot. But I heard somebody else smarter than me that said that is that we don't use people to get ministry done. We use ministry to get people done. So it's a part of that spiritual formation process in our lives, and so that serving is critical. It's key for us.
Yeah, God did not call us to a life of sitting on the couch. Like, I think we're called to do so much more, and we're not going to grow doing nothing. Like, that's not how plants work. You know, they have to go out, get that sunlight, get the water, and they have to reach out for it. And I think that a lot of times it's just kind of like, I serve at my church, that's good enough. And it's like, no, it's not, because there's so much more needs that you're ignoring by not doing something.
Yeah. I had a guy probably pushing 70 years old. He's a high capacity leader. He called me this week and he just said, Mitch, I'm bored out of my mind. I can only golf so much. I can only read so many books. I got to do something that's going to make a difference, and I want to serve. Yeah. How can you help me find a place to serve? And that's where I love being able to say, hey, Agape is a place you can serve, or this is a place you can serve, or here's a place you can serve, and set up dates for them to serve, you know?
I said we were going to wrap up, but that leads to a question for me is, like, in this area, we so often, again, I talked about this with Paul on the last podcast, we see so many people who are at, you know, the 60, 70, 80 age range who think, my only job now is to exist. And it's like, no. God's not done with you. God still has a purpose. He still has something. What is something you could say to someone like that who feels that way?
I will tell you that the most influential age season in a person's life is the end of the third quarter and the fourth quarter of their life. That's where the game is on the line. I mean, so you have so much influence when you're over 50. Between 50 and 80, you have the most influence. You have so much wisdom. You have so much experience, life experience. You've got a little extra time and a little extra resources. This is the time. This is your time, I would say to them, to make a difference and be involved. Yeah, you spent your career doing all these great things. Now spend this season serving and making a difference in the kingdom. And God is not done with you yet. There is no retirement in the kingdom of God. And if I could say anything, we say that all the time. And I just want to challenge our folks to do that. And sometimes I feel like people reach a certain age, they feel like they're washed up. People don't want them anymore. We say, no, come to our place, come to our place. You know, we've got one of our greatest servants is going to be 94 coming up in June. And he is serving all three. I mean, like he's
hours
on
Sunday.
I golf with him too. He's better than me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think again, there's people my age who just want to be poured into. Like, that's the reality. Is like, let's be real. My generation's a little uncomfortable reaching out and asking for help. Whereas, like, hey, you take that step and just go to one of us. There's going to be so much appreciation and taking that leap to pour into someone. Yeah, no one's ever going to say no to that.
Yeah. It's great. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Like you asked, what do you see the future with Centerpointe? And I don't know that I had the best answer for that, because I'm still looking for the answer and praying about that. What do you see? What do you guys both see? Like, how would we make the biggest impact for Agape? Because that's my desire. I just don't know exactly what that looks like. You got any ideas?
I truly, for me, the one thing I'm always going to look at is building a deeper relationship. Is like, again, it's not about financial. It's not about how many volunteers, what church brings the most volunteers. It's about us, cultivating that relationship so that that relationship outlives you as a pastor, outlives Todd in the financial department. It's, hey, Centerpointe will always be that support system for Agape that, no matter what, we're connected. That's huge to me. But that's because I'm communications. Let's ask the financial guy that.
No, I think outside of financially, we love support because it takes a lot of money to maintain planes and fly planes and to do the business that we're in. But outside of financially, I really would just push people to volunteer their time, and it doesn't have to be here, but can't stress that enough, to volunteer your time, to go out, because this kind of all started with me on mission trips, going out with kids about 10 years ago, and just seeing a different side of the country we live in.
Yeah.
And it started with Keith and Clara going to another country and seeing the outside need. They were actually retired. They were from Ohio. They had retired and moved down to Bradenton. So this is
to play pickleball.
Probably. Had pickleball been invented?
I don't think pickleball.
I didn't hear pickleball until like 10 years ago.
I don't think it was. I don't know. I didn't even know what it was, so I moved to Venice.
Yeah,
but I love it.
Yeah. So So for those that think like, oh, I'm retired, I'm just, I've had enough. Look what Keith and Claire started.
Yeah.
In their, they had probably were in their late 60s or early 70s when they started Agape, 45 years ago now.
Yeah.
And so the story goes that they didn't know anything about flying or planes or anything. They just said, we need to get a plane to get supplies to these missionaries so that they can do their work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they came back and did it. I mean, like, how do you?
What a calling!
Yeah, it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story.
That's my hope, is that
yeah,
people at Centerpointe go out and volunteer in the community and grow spiritually, with Christ as the center of wherever they're volunteering at. And then, I think I said earlier, but my hope is to start having some type of a missions team where we can take people that are able enough to go to the field so that they can see it and it can change their life, because it really does. When you, just like when you go to Israel and the Bible becomes 3D and colorful and pops out at the page at you, when you go somewhere and you see, like we did in the Bahamas, where you go to I think it was Watertown or
Blackwood.
Blackwood.
Yep.
Yeah, the Blackwood establishment, where you see how people live with very little and intense and no power, nothing. And they're just scraping by. And then you come back here and you see, everything that we have here. It changes the way you look at it, changes the way you manage your resources. It changes the way you manage church's resources. It's life-changing. So get out there and volunteer and get on a mission trip.
Yeah. We call that the ministry of reciprocity. As Americans, when we go into developing countries, we bring about three things to the table. We bring technology. Nobody does technology as well as we do, or at least that's been the case. We bring finances. Nobody has the resources that we have. And we bring the educational and training component. That's what we bring to the table. But there's a ministry of reciprocity that's not like just these Americans riding in on our white stallions to save all these people. So there's things that we learn, so much from the missionaries that you guys are supporting. And usually in developing countries, we learn ingenuity. We learn how to do more ministry with less dollars. So we learn that. We learn joy, because here we have all these things. We have all these material possessions, and yet we have more anxiety problems, more depression, and yet you go to Haiti and some of these places, and they have nothing, and yet they have a joy that's just hard for us to even comprehend and understand because of the conditions. And then they bring youthfulness. A lot of the developing countries are younger than we are. So that when we learn that together in the ministry of reciprocity, it actually helps our church to grow too, because our people it's part of their spiritual formation and they're growing as well.
Yeah. I think, and me and Todd don't just talk about, hey, go serve out in your community. It's like, hey, we actually live it as well. Like, we work for a nonprofit, but we're also, again, we volunteer at nonprofits in our local area. Again, it's not, hey, you guys should do this. It's like, no, we want to lead by example as well. Yeah. So
one of the things that I would say, people want to be where God is. And from the very beginning with Claire, what was their names?
Keith and Claire.
Keith and Claire. With Keith and Claire, it's very evident that God has had his hand on the ministry of Agape flights, and people want to be where God is and what God is blessing. And so that's one of the big reasons too, is I see what God is doing here. I want to be a part of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can close on all of that. I think you guys just are just such a wealth of information, and I love just sitting here and learning at your guys' feet and hearing your hearts behind everything. I think what you guys bring to this community, not only Agape Flights, not only Centerpointe, is just so valuable for people to hear. So again, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. It was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, it was good.
We're gonna have you on because I know there's so much more we could talk about, and I love it.
I can
love
talk.
just hearing.
Yeah, I like
know
to talk.
you can.
He can talk. He can talk to a. That's what he said.
I talk to a rock.
talk to a rock.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're past that 40-minute mark a
are
long
we?
time
Good.
ago.
Probably.
But thank you guys again so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please tune in next week. We're gonna have some other great guests. Again, this is just the heart of what a donor looks like for Agape Flight. So if you have any questions, reach out to us. I'll direct you straight to Todd, and Todd can answer all your questions because he loves talking on the phone. Again, until then, God bless.